Best-selling author and American psychologist Mary Pfeiffer said this: "We live in a world filled with language. Language imparts identity, meaning, and perspective to our human community. Writers are either polluters or part of the cleanup team. Just as the language of power and greed has the potential to destroy us, the language of reason and empathy has the power to save us. Writers can inspire a kinder, fairer, more beautiful world, or invite selfishness, stereotyping, and violence. Writers can unite people or divide them." In this book show podcast, host, confidence coach Susan Axelrod asks women authors a simple question: which kind of writer are you? She invites each guest to step into the confidence zone to proclaim how her book can inspire. If you are seeking inspiration to create your legacy, take out your pen and pad. Your book, My Time, starts now. Hello, friends. Welcome to this episode of your book, My Time. We are truly raising the bar here. I am delighted to welcome author Peggy Bell to the conversation today. She is an international best-selling author who achieved #1 status on 132 categories in 12 countries. This is something that most authors really only dream about. But just before we went live, I was having a little conversation with Peggy, and we were talking about the work and investment it takes to achieve this accomplishment. I couldn't be more delighted to be speaking with Peggy today because of my brand. Working with women in the second half of life, I call it Discovering You Again. Peggy Bell was a teacher for 40 years, and now here she is, an acclaimed author, speaker, and coach. Peggy, I am so delighted to welcome you to the book show today.
Hi, Susan. I'm so thrilled to be here. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Well, we've been watching your progress all week. Peggy and I are both leading practitioners in the KS Media app. We are active, engaged participants in the Cornelia Stephanie Media Group. That's how we met. Cornelia is a connector and a networker, and she brought us both in. And I know, Peggy, you feel the way I do about how powerful that group is, isn't it?
I absolutely love it. It was a gift. I'd never even imagined it would be as much as it is. I'm so thankful I'm part of that group.
It's so fantastic. Peggy, I said already how much I admire and respect the fact that you put in 40 years for our children as a teacher. And here you are now in what I call the second half of life as an acclaimed author, speaker, and coach. So I want to ask you, what is the story behind the story of your book, Stuck to Unstoppable: Living Life with Power, Passion, and Purpose?
Well, for 5 decades, I thought life was the way it was, and I was meant to be the way I was, and I was happy. I was a daughter, I was a wife, I was a mother, I was a teacher. But it wasn't until after I retired that I had time to get off autopilot, if you will, and
Mm.
really do some self-reflecting. And I realized there was a lot that I still had on back burner as far as dreams were. And I just realized if I didn't do what I wanted to do now, I never would. But it would require leaving my comfort zone. It would require stepping out in places that made me very uncomfortable. I lacked self-confidence. I lacked self-esteem. I was a shy person. I was always wanted to play it safe and not take risk. And so when I decided to come out of retirement and get my certification for coaching, I was my first client, and
Mm.
I had to work on myself. I had lots of limiting beliefs, and I had so many things to work on, and I was able to do a big transformation. And my whole point is that I feel like we all have gifts to give to the world. not always in the same size or the same area, but we all have gifts. And it's up to us to use those gifts, because one day we won't be here to use them anymore. And they're going to die with us if we don't use them. And so my whole message is, let's get this transformation done. Let's become that true person that you're meant to be and make life the best that it can, because life's way too short to do it any other way.
Well, Peggy, I'm already done with this conversation. Like, I think honestly, you just said it all. There's so much here. I don't even know where to start. So let's start with the word retirement. What I hear is that you retired from your teaching career. You
Yeah.
didn't go into retirement. You retired from your teaching career, and then you took a minute to breathe. And that's when you got off autopilot, as you said, and realized, hey, I have something more in me. Now, now we talk about self-confidence and self-esteem. Well, you know, I'm the confidence coach. So I loved hearing that part. I loved hearing that. But also, as a coach for women in the second half of life, I always say, when you're a coach, you need to self coach. And so when you said, I was my first client, that's it right there. Because if you learned to self coach through your coaching certification and this process and through your own personal transformation, you will always do self coaching. So I'm really delighted about this. I there's so much more to say on this, but I guess I must ask you, how did you overcome the lack of self confidence as you self proclaimed?
Well, I had this big, loud, vocal self-critic that was always putting me down, and, just made me smaller and smaller is the way I felt. And so it was very non-scientific, but it worked for me, and it has worked for many people. And so I'll share it with you. I used visualization, and I imagined her to be an old, feeble woman. And I gave her a name that was very unflattering as far as I was concerned. And so right away, that visualization took her power away.
Hmm.
And every time she would try to tell me that I couldn't, I was too this, too that, or not this, or not that, I would call her by name and call her out and say, I can do this. And then I would take action. And that was the key, to take action. And when I did, she started getting calmer and a little more meek, more mild. And I rarely hear her anymore. And when I do hear her, I know exactly how to quiet her down. So, like I said, it's not scientific, but it has worked for me. Just the visualization
Well,
techniques.
it may not be scientific, although I could argue that point because
Yeah, with the visualization.
visualization is scientific, but it's certainly artistry. Oh, it's such beautiful artistry. And I want to invite our listeners, please play this back and listen to this free, inspired method that Peggy just shared with us. Peggy, I also have used visualization on honestly since I was about 14 years old when when leader soul rose in me. So I've used visualization, and then I also use affirmation as you did in speaking directly to. Did you want to share her name with us or not? I
I
don't know
never
if that's
do.
personal.
I never do, because I never want it to be
Right, good
some
point.
relative or
Then we're just going to say to old lady inside, when you're speaking directly to old lady inside, the feeble person, the
Mhm.
shy person, the struggling, difficult person, I love that you're invoking the strong, powerful, purposeful soul persona to have that conversation with her.
Yeah, and that's the part that, really is effective, because if I didn't take action, then it would just kind of be nagging, and then my self-doubt would come back and say, could I, is she right or whatever? But when I take action and I can prove not only to her, but to myself then I started to build up my confidence, and she started to quiet
I
down.
love this. In my last episode, I had the inimitable Wendy Lipton Dibner, who actually created the Move People to Action movement.
Uh-huh.
And I went to see her in a 4-day program. I've been following her since 2013. And so I also am all about action. And I'm already loving that we're both ladies in the second half of life, just
Yes.
calling that out. So, Peggy, let me ask you the second question that I always ask is, what is it? Um, well, actually, I have other questions coming in. So before I go to my standard question, I wanted to just ask, because this is the thing that I know will be coming up for people and I want to get it answered. Is this work that you do in your coaching?
Yes.
Okay.
I have something that I call the Bell approach. Bell being not only my last name, but an acronym for
Okay.
believe, evolve, love yourself, and live your purpose. And so that's my coaching program. And
Mhm.
the book is based on that.
I love this. Wendy's a big acronym person. I learned that from her. And so I also use acronyms. One of my favorite acronyms is RISE, uh, releasing inhibitions and securing enthusiasm.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so that's one of my favorite ones. And so the second question, why is your book worth our time? I wanted to ask you, can you talk about your book a little bit and lay out what's in it so we can understand the resource that it is?
Sure. I think when you're the best version of yourself, you're happier. And when you're happier, everybody around you benefits. And if you're in a work situation, you're going to be more productive. Research shows that you're more productive, you're apt to miss work less, you're less likely to make mistakes when you're happier. Research has shown all of that. So I think being the best version of ourselves is what we're meant to be truly authentic. And so I always used acronyms when I taught also, because my students would learn from acronyms. It was easy to remember. So Bell being my last name, I came up with that acronym, and it's a logical transformation from believing all the way to setting goals and living your purpose. Um, I don't want anybody to have to wait as long as I did, 5
Yes.
decades to realize that I didn't have to be this fixed mindset. We can change things. And we all go through life-changing events. I mean, I lost my first husband back in 2009. We lose people we love. We go through divorce. We have empty nest syndrome. We lose our jobs, our finances. And then we start questioning, who am I? What's my reason now? What's my path? Where do I go from here? And so that book kind of brings it all together. From when you're believing in yourself, then you're able to tackle those strong things and those tough things that we face on a day-to-day basis, especially in the world we live now, that I call chaos. And so when you just have that support behind you, when you have that self-confidence and you have that resilience, because that's what I'm known as, the resilience coach, to get through those things,
Mm,
then life's going to be a lot easier. And I I love my life right now. I love the life I used to have.
mhm,
I'm more confident than I ever was. I'm
mm.
happier in my own skin than I ever was. And I'm no longer the spectator. Put me right there in the middle and let me play the game, because that's where I want to be. And if I can help anybody get that less than 50 years old like I was, then, get the book. It's going to be worth it.
So, Peggy, one thing that's happening with me is every show, I'm literally so inspired. And just to call out, the reason I wanted to do this book show was as part of my transformational journey, Peggy. In the day that we listened to audio tapes,
Yeah.
made my car my university. And I listened to audio tapes in those days in my car on a long commute. And other people, regular human people like us, were inspiring me. Now, okay, some of their names were famous, some of them were not, but they were inspiring me in all the same way that you're talking about with personal transformation. And I did become transformed. And my kids and my sisters and brother will tell you that.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to offer this platform for people like you who have written books like this and have had your own journey and can call out things like growth mindset. I tagged the Carol Dweck book in the comments, right?
Yes.
To inspire people today. You are here in real time. You have an amazing journey. And I'm calling in and calling out to women like we were, or, now they may be older than we were, to understand the possibility and what is possible here.
That's why I love what you're doing, because you're never too old to do it. If it's in your heart, if it's your desire, your dreams, then go for it. It's only too late when you're gone.
When you're dead.
Yeah. So as long
Yeah.
as you have breath in you, go after it,
Yeah.
sooner the
Peggy,
better.
it's interesting to say that because sometimes I go live every day on my platform in the confidence zone with the confidence coach, Susan Axelrod. And I really sometimes actually call out myself and say, like, wow, I sound like some motivational speaker here. But I couldn't be more genuine in everything I say. And that's what I really want to say. I've been getting to know Peggy inside the Cornelius Stephanie Media Group. And, we keep it real. Both of us show up there real, authentic, human. And this stuff is true.
Yeah.
It's real, and we truly are here to inspire others. So, Peggy, I want to get to the most important question of all, which is, what do you want people to do when they finish reading your book? This is your opportunity to tell us, how can you help us really get through this transformational journey?
Well, I did want to add also that there is an action step behind every chapter, but there's
Ah,
also a downloadable workbook that takes you even farther. And so that's going to be, to accompany to make the most out of the book. Now, I love doing workshops, the teacher in me, continuing to do that, but with a different audience. So if I would love to go into the schools and speak with teachers and staff. I would love to go into businesses to help their employers, just to work on their own personal development so that they can bring their best self to the
mm,
workplace.
mm,
And that's what I'm looking for. I also offer coaching classes if you're interested in taking the Bell Approach coaching class. So you can
mm.
actually reach out to me, and I'll be happy to speak with you.
Okay, and where do we find you?
My email address is info@peggymBell.com. My website is www.peggymBell.com, and everything is in there where you can reach out to me from there.
And
In my
just
I'm sorry, my website, I also have a guide. It's called Confessions from a Recovering Self-Doubter. It's a free guide you can download there. And so
mm.
go to my website, see what's there, and take advantage of it.
Okay, just so you know, we're not done with our conversation. We're not done yet. I just
Okay.
wanted to give you the opportunity, and of course, both Peggy and I can be found in the KS Media app. All
Yeah.
you need to do is go to your download the Play Store, download the app, sign in, and connect up with us there. So, Peggy, let's talk about your workshops. What's your vision for your workshop? Big, small, in person, online. By the way, if there are any principals or school superintendents or district leaders or school board members watching us or listening to this podcast in its archived form, I want to beg you, please contact Peggy M. Bell and bring her in to your schools to support the teachers to move out of that autopilot phase. And that's one of the things, Peggy, that I'm inspired to do. What I want to do with you is just have a live conversation offline here, not in podcast form, on my platform, and really talk about living life in autopilot and how we can help move people out of autopilot. So talk to me about the workshops. What's your vision for them?
I just did one last week. I was in Austin. I'm from Texas, and I spoke to directors of early childhood centers, and it was all about working with their staff to make them the best that they can be, working as a team. And the name of the workshop was called Be a Beacon of Light in a World of Chaos. And so it
Mm,
was all about how to be that beacon of light for others. And that's what I do with a lot of the workshops, especially with the schools, because right now teachers are just overwhelmed. They're having to fill in a gap that's been left because of COVID, and we just need to work on it. It's called psychological triage, is what the reports are showing that teachers really need, the mental well-being and the resilience. And so I'm really, really hoping that I can get some schools, coming
okay,
up.
so we're going to get you schools, Peggy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's clarify a little bit. First of all, what I love about this is I teach the intuitive business system. I created a system based on how I grew my business. And so I work with women in business because of a woman's intuition. And so
Mhm.
after 40 years of a teacher, you know what it takes. I could go into a school system and work with teachers on confidence. I am the confidence coach, but you are them. I don't think that was grammatically correct, but you
Yeah.
know what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
that you get them.
Been
They
there.
get
Mhm.
you. You've been there and they can trust you. And so again, I want to invite anybody listening to forward this and share it with any school leaders you know. Now, Peggy, let's get real about this. When are teachers going to be able to go to a workshop like this? How do you see that? How do you see that when they're so busy and they're overwhelmed? How can we make this real?
Well, that's what, I want to emphasize too. We're not adding more to their plate, because you don't want to say, okay, you have to give up your planning period now and you need to come to
Right.
listen to this. So it could either be, lots of schools have weekly faculty meetings. It could be there. Um, I talk about even hiring like support coaches that can help work in small groups. So in place of a meeting one week, you would be working with small groups and having some support systems going on there. Nothing added to their plate. I'm strong about that, because I would go sometimes a week and not have any time off because I had meetings to go to, and nobody wants another meeting on top of everything. So
Right. That's why,
yeah,
I'm about action too, Peggy, and I'm about, creating things real. And that's why I wanted to ask you this important question, because I know many teachers, and I actually have a client whom I'm going to speak to about you. She is now started a business working with me to become a consultant in STEM accreditation.
okay,
And so she's doing her thing over there,
yeah,
but we need to make sure she knows about you so that she can refer you to the teachers she
yeah,
meets,
that
not
would be
inside her
great.
business model, but just so she knows about you. And we are definitely going to make that connection. And again, I can't think of anything more important. There's so many industries, healthcare workers, Peggy. I mean, there's so many industries you could support. But the fact that you were a teacher for 40 years, I mean, you must have had thousands of students.
Yes, I did.
That's kind of scary, isn't it?
Now my students are grandparents.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
Yes.
Um, okay, so again, we want you to get the book. We want you to understand that this book can be a resource for you. If you don't have a pad, I always have a pen and pad. If you can't do it, listen to it. Just, listen to the book. By the way, is it on Audible or not
It
yet?
will be. It just
It
got
will be.
became live in print yesterday. That's why I don't even have a copy to show.
Oh, okay.
It will be, in Audible
Good.
probably in the
Okay.
next few days.
Great. Okay. So buy it so you can write your notes in it. You can access the online content. And then also you can listen to it when it comes available on Audible. This is the kind of thing, Peggy, this is exactly the kind of thing that I would have listened to. I love that the acronym is so short.
Yeah.
It's so short, it's easy, it's important, it's impactful. And I now that we're talking, I had known about you. Of course, I had read about you, glanced through the material, but now that we're talking, and I really am feeling the energy, the resonance come up to get your 40 years of experience, like a wealth of experience, to help our young teachers or younger teachers
Mhm.
today. Because what we want is that those teachers go out of off autopilot into passion. It's not that they're not passionate. Every teacher is passionate, of course, but we're talking about in the personal space, right, Peggy?
Yes.
Personally.
And I think if they felt better personally, they would be able to look at the things they're having to deal with in the school system and approach it in a little different way with a little better mindset and not such a feel of overwhelm. And that's what I'm
Mm,
trying to get for them, because right now they're down in the trenches and they're feeling defeated in so many areas.
I know, I feel this energetically, and that's why I'm really honing right in on it. Are you willing and able to travel?
Absolutely.
All
Yes.
right, people, bring it in.
Get me.
Bring her in.
So,
Good. I really do like the idea of how much, of course, this is my point exactly. You understand that these teachers, that's why I just really honestly asked that clarifying question. We got to make this real. And that you understand that these teachers don't right now have the time, the bandwidth, the personal energy, and possibly resources, financial
mhm,
resources to hire you personally to do this on top of everything else. And so I love the idea that, and I really right here and now want to challenge school systems on this. I get budgets are restrained and restricted, but you will have so much more service. You'll have so much more energy in the school system if your teachers and administrators, of course, are
yes.
feeling personally open, personally developed, personally connected. Is that right, Peggy?
Absolutely, yes. And we spend so much time, worrying about the well-being of children, which they are our best commodity. But there's a trickle-down effect when you have a teacher in the classroom that's just so burnt out, so overwhelmed, considering leaving the profession. You're not going to get the same results as you will walking into a teacher's classroom who is happy with where she is and motivated and ready to tackle it. It's just going to be two different outcomes. And that's what I'm going after. Let's get those teachers to all have that better frame of mind.
Mm. We just have another minute or two, but we're really talking about frame of mind. We're talking about outlook. We're talking about what Peggy and I have learned in our own personal commitment, intentional
Mhm.
transformation is that you gain energy, you grow inside, and it does ripple out from you, and that's really
Absolutely.
what we're looking for here. So I really I know there's so many groups you could speak to, and like I said, healthcare workers is a no-brainer, people service
Yes.
professionals. Honestly, you could support other coaches in this way, management consultants. I mean, you could honestly support small business owners. I mean, there's so much out there.
Yes.
I just know that we want to support our children and our teachers in this way. And we're looking for people who are enlightened themselves, who feel it themselves, and who understand how vital it would be to buy the book for your teaching staff and then
Mhm.
bring Peggy in for these periodic sessions during faculty meetings. I
Right.
love that idea.
Yes,
All right. So peggymbell.com, right?
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Peggy, thank you so much for coming
Susan,
here
this was
today.
great. Thank you for having me. It's been a
Oh, such a pleasure. We're gonna go offline on that other thing about living in autopilot. And
uh-huh.
then I definitely want to have a conversation live with you about that because I think that's a very important point that we want to hit on. Thank
Okay.
you for the energy that you're bringing to our world. And
Thank you.
thank you for the energy you bring to the room and the group as well. And thank you also for being a role model on becoming an international best-selling author. I'm
Thank you.
really, really so happy for you.
I
All
appreciate
right, friends, that's it for today. Stay tuned for the next episode. Join in. We love to have you as part of the conversation. Take good care.
it. Bye-bye.
Bye bye now.